Okay, we'll be solving quadratics by using the quadratic formula. Now, the quadratic formula requires that we have our quadratic in the quadratic form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And we do have that form. A will be the coefficient of x squared, which is 3. We have it here. B will be the coefficient of x, which is 8. And c stands for the constant, a number that doesn't have any variables next to it, which is 5. Next, we're going to put our b here and here. Our b will go in these two spots right here. So 8 goes here and 8 goes here. Next is a. A goes here and here. So we'll put 3 here and 3 here. And lastly, in this spot right here, this is where C goes. C goes in this last spot here. So we'll put 5 there. Okay, now let's begin the process of finding all the multiplication that needs to be done. Here we have a negative times a positive 8. Negative times a positive 8 gives us negative 8. Furthermore, we have 8 times 8. Let me write this down so you can see it. This will be 8 times 8, whereas this will be 4 times 3 times 5. And down here will be 2 times 3. So we're going to do all the multiplications. The 8 times 8, the negative 4 times 3 times 5, and the 2 times 3. So that's going to end up giving us 8 times 8 will be 64. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12, and negative 12 times 5 is negative 60. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so that's all our multiplication. Now let's simplify using the adding and subtracting. It should be here. So we got negative 8 plus or minus, and we're going to take 64 minus 60. Combining those terms gives us 4, and that will be all over 6. Now, the 4 can be simplified, or the square root of 4 can be simplified to a 2. Now, what often happens is that people do simplify the numbers here, but they accidentally leave the root over the number. So be careful after you simplify the 4 under the root, then you don't use the root anymore. This will be over 6. Now we're going to split this into 2 pieces. One piece will be a negative 8 plus 2 over 6. The second piece will be a negative 8 minus 2 over 6. Okay, so let's begin with the one on top. I'm sorry, the one to the left. A negative 2 and negative 8 and a 2. Same signs add, different signs subtract. This will give us a 6. The bigger sign wins, so there'll be a negative. So we have negative 6. And that'll be all over 6. Now, when we simplify a negative 6 over 6, we're going to get 6 divided by 6 gives us 1, but a negative divided by positive gives us negative. So that's negative 1. Furthermore, we have same signs here, negative 8 and negative 2. Same signs add, so we get a 10. And bigger sign wins, so we get negative 10. And this will be all over 6. Now, let's simplify this by dividing by 2. And we'll get x equals negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. And those are our 2 answers. Now let's look at the next one. It's in order. We have our ax squared and our bx plus c equals 0. And now we need to identify our a, b's, and c's. A is always the number in front of x squared, so the coefficient is 2. B is the number in front of x, and that coefficient is negative 5. C is the constant. Since there's no constant here, that means the constant is actually the number 0. So we're going to put our b here and here. So this will be a negative 5 here and a negative 5 here. So those are our b's. Oops, sorry. Okay, so once again, A is going to be positive 2, B is going to be negative 5, and the missing C here is going to be 0. So we're going to put our negative 5 for B here and here. Next, we're going to put our A here, and here. So 2 will go here, and 2 will go here. Then, in this spot right here, this is where we're going to put our C, so that'll be 0. So now, let's get ready for our multiplication. Demonstrate all our multiplication. We have a negative times a negative 5. That's going to give us a positive 5. This will give us negative 5 times negative 5. And this will give us negative 4 times 2 times 0. All over 2 times 2. So let's finish the multiplication here. Positive 5 outside here. And here we have negative 5 times negative 5. So negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. It's negative times negative is positive. Next we have a negative 4 times 2, which is negative 8. And negative 8 times 0 is 0. So that's minus 0. Down here we have a 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay, so 25 take away 0 would be our next step. 25 take away 0 is just 25. Now, we're going to simplify this. 25. The square root of 25 ends up being 5. And again, do not keep the root after you simplify it to 25. So it's just a regular 5 now. Now, this breaks up into 2 problems. Left side will be 5 plus 5 over 4. Whereas the right side will be 5 minus 5 all over 4. It's a bad 5. Okay, so same signs add, we get 10. The bigger sign wins. It's positive 10 all over 4. And we're going to simplify this by dividing by 2. We end up with 5 over 2. Now here, 5 minus 5, same signs add, different signs subtract. So this will be 0 over 4. And when you simplify 0 over 4, we're going to get 0. So those are our 2 answers. Next, we have 16 squared minus 25 equals 0. Well, the a in this case will be a 16. Since there's no x term in here, the b is actually 0. The constant is negative 25, so we'll write in negative 25 for our c. All right, so now we'll start putting our numbers in. The b will go here and here, so 0 goes here and there. Next, our a. Our a goes here and here. So 16 goes here, and 16 goes there. Lastly, our c. Our c, which is a negative 25, goes here. Okay, so let's start putting everything together, multiplication-wise. So negative 0 is still 0. 0 doesn't have a sign. And this right here would be 0 times 0, if you know it would be 0. But here we'll get negative 4 times 16, and then times negative 25. And below we have 2 times 16. Okay. So let's begin our work. So 0 goes away, so we're left with plus and minus. 0 times 0 is just 0. Now, negative 4 times 16 times negative 25. I'm not so good at negative 4 times 16, but I am pretty good at negative 4 times 25, or negative 25. So I know 4 times 25 is 100, and negative times negative is positive. So it's positive 100, and you multiply that times a 16, and we get 1600. So positive 1600. Now 2 times 16 is going to be 32. Okay, so now the job is to find the square root of 116. And I know that 1600 can be broken into 16 times 100. The square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 100 is 10. And 4 times 10 is 40. So the square root of this would be 40. about plus or minus over 32. Okay, now let's break this up into two pieces. One piece will be positive 40 over 32, whereas the other piece will be a negative 40 over 32. Now I want to simplify this, and I'm going to try dividing this by let's try dividing by 8. Okay, 40 divided by 8 gives me 5. 32 divided by 8 gives me 4. Okay, and I'll do the same thing here. I'll divide both by 8. Negative 40 divided by 8 is negative 5, and 32 divided by 8 is positive 4. And those are my answers.